to start this morning with the Newsweek edition published a number of years ago. This is the January 11th edition of Newsweek. The year is 1988, I believe it is. Yes, 1988, January 11th, 1988. The search for Adam and Eve. Scientists explore a controversial theory about man's origins. I started with that because 1988, a few years ago, in 2008, 20 years. So this information has been out in the public media at least since 1988. And yet, most people in the country are not aware of it, have no knowledge. Now, of course, this is where stylized Adam and Eve, Jerry Curl and all. but they obviously cover. I'm showing you these things because I believe in trying to build a library of important things to pass along to the future. I have a copy of this particular magazine, which I brought to class before. Now, thank goodness, since I can use the projector, I can photograph it, and I don't have to bring the copy out. I'm not worried about y'all taking it because I've already tested y'all. Okay. I'm more concerned about, getting damage over time. But as you can, I'm showing you these things because as you can, try to find these various documents to put away for your family, your grandkids, or whatever. Stories do change over time, and sometimes it's helpful if they can see how long certain things have been out that are still not common knowledge. Now, this particular Newsweek, there are places in the country, Iron Mountain, Georgia, and Florida, where they store large numbers of back issues of national magazines. Newsweek stores theirs in Iron Mountain, Georgia, underground. And as far as they tell me, this particular Newsweek is no longer available. Now, I know they have some, but they ain't selling them. However, whenever you travel, go to thrift stores. When I go to thrift stores, I head directly to the back. They have some books, National Geographics and magazines. Very often you'll find one of these. If you find this one, walk very slowly and nonchalantly to the counter. Pay your quarter and run to your car.
That's right. 10 cents a quarter.
Now, U.S. News and World Reports, early man, the radical new view of where we came from. This is September the 16th, I believe. September 16th, 1991. September 16th, 1991. U.S. News and World Reports. This one is probably still available. If you call the headquarters of U.S. News and World Reports and ask them who houses their archives, they'll give you a number. You can write to them. Sometimes it may cost you $10 for a copy, but these are things that I have in my possession, and I would recommend if you can, that you get copies and have in your possession. Again, 10 years ago, they were talking about early man, as you can see once again, that's the brother. Now, we spent 5 sessions really, talking about the development of humans on planet Earth. All humans originated in Africa, in the Great Lakes area of Africa, the eastern part of the continent. And based upon all the fossil evidence that's been found, you can see that the spread of Homo erectus, that's the green arrows, began approximately 1.8 million years ago. And then Homo sapiens expanded around 100,000 years ago, again moving to all the parts of the earth. And we know at this point that everybody on planet Earth is related. We talked about the reasons that they have been pushing intelligent design, the fact that is we can postulate that God made different people, different places. If we cut the time frame of the last 6,000 years and say that man has only been on the planet 6,000 years, which is ahistorical, if we say that, then there's no time for this kind of dispersal. And we can then assume that God will again have to make the Chinese in China, the Japanese in Japan, the Europeans in Europe, and the Africans in Africa. And therefore, they might have been made individually. And therefore, there might be some individual ability that one of them has that the other does not have. But if you presuppose, check it right here, if you presuppose that all humans are the same general genetic stock, then there's no basis for postulating that any racial group has any abilities more so than any other racial group. So once again, behind the intelligent design argument, which appears to be a religious argument or the creationist argument, is good old white supremacy. Now, I showed you just now the maps based upon the fossil evidence. In the last several years, scientists have gone back and done the very same work tracing DNA. So not only do we now have the fossil evidence to prove that everybody is life originated in Africa and all life moved out of Africa to the fossil planet, we now have to back that up DNA evidence linking all the people on the planet to the same general stock. Now, another Newsweek. This is Newsweek, November the 10th, 1986. November the 10th, 1986. I'm showing these magazines, by the way, for those who just came in. I'll go back for just a second. This is Newsweek, January 11th, 1988. The Search for Adam and Eve. This one, so far as I know, is no longer available to the publishers. If you look at thrift stores and books, old bookstores, you think you can find them. U.S. News and World Reports, September the 16th, 1991. Early Man, the radical new view of where we came from. And this is Newsweek, the way we were, our Ice Age heritage, language, art, fashion, and the family. November 10th, 1986. And you can see on there is a gentleman who don't look like the previous two. And in fact, he don't look too kind. he's a gentleman who has been in the ice, and he looked like he'd been in the ice. This is a very important magazine because what it shows is that the language, the art, the fashion, and more importantly, the mentality of Europeans was shaped in the ice and forms a radical departure from that of those who were formed in more warm climates. Now, as humans moved through other parts of the earth, as we said before, around 50,000 years ago, ice was down to about the area of Spain in Europe. And so initially when humans moved throughout the planet 100,000 years ago, Homo sapiens, they couldn't go in Europe because Europe was ice country. About 50,000 years ago, the ice receded. That may have been, by the way, a point when there was a lot of water around. And much like the story of Chicken Little, who thought the world was forming because rain of corn fell on it, that may be the origin of a number of cultures talking about a flood. Because if you picture these large glaciers melting, there's going to be some water. Many cultures on the earth, in a particular area of that, the belt would be the area where the glaciers were, have stories about floods. Of course, they ascribe the floods to the best things they can, God did. But there's reason to understand why there would have been a lot of water some places. But when the ice melts, humans for the first time go into northern Europe. The planet goes through cycles all the time. We live short periods of time, so we don't notice them in big cycles, but 10,000 years or so later on, ice came back. And that's then forced a lot of people to have to adapt or die. Many did die. But those who were able to stay alive because they were able over time to do certain kinds of things. One of the things that happened to those in Northern Europe was that they were able to decrease melanin in their skin. Melanin is the pigment that gives us coloration in our skin. There's a law called Glauber's law, which I'll probably show later on, which says that all warm-blooded mammals, and we are warm-blooded mammals, who live in or near the equator, develop melanin in their skin to protect the harsh ultraviolet rays of the sun. So we know absolutely that original human, Homo sapiens sapien, was colored. Not as dark as those in southern Africa, but about the complexion, or maybe it's a little bit darker than the average person would give. Now, as these people moved into Northern Europe, to the extent that they could lose melanin over time, that increased their ability to stay alive. Now, the cave experience was a European experience. People in Africa primarily did not live in caves. Many of us assume that they play caves because Europeans take their particular experience and generalize it like it worked for everybody. But now you probably know, if you stay indoors during the summer, or if you go to a place where there's not a whole lot of sunshine, you like winter. Just as if you go down south for the summer, with the strong sunlight working in the fields down there somewhere, you darken up. So this is a natural process, and those who were light tend to produce people who are light. So over a long period of time, tens of thousands of years, you can produce, just by the area you live in, Northern Europe, a functionally demelanized person. A person we call a white person. They ain't really white, maybe closer to pink. Just like we really black, we're closer to tan. But anyway. So, we can explain all the phenotypical, all the physical changes in the human beings based upon where they live on the planet because of the sun and the other environmental conditions that they have to deal with. So one of the things that happens to Europeans is a decrease in melanin. A second thing that happens is a narrowing of the nasal passage. Originally we had a shorter, broader nose, very good for quick air exchange in and out in Africa. When you move to a northern climate, that becomes a slight detriment to the extent, over time, that you're able to develop a long, narrow nose that heats the air up more before it goes into your chest cavity. And that's another factor that then helps to keep you alive. You don't have cold air shocking your system as quickly as it would if you have a short, wide nose. You're all of a sudden there right inside the chest cavity. That's a little bit of difference. So warm it up a little, warm it up a little bit more before it goes in. Helps to give you a way to stay alive. So you develop a long, thinner nose in most Europeans. Then there's the hair. This hair that I used to have, African hair, again, is very good for air conditioning. You can see the scalp of the hair. That becomes, again, a detriment in North Central Europe during the Ice Age, during the end of the Ice Age, of course. You're not looking for a way to have air conditioning. You're looking for a way to retain heat. So to the degree that you can develop flat hair that covers your head like a cap, that's another factor that helps to provide you a way of staying alive. So, decreasing melanin, narrowing of nasal passage, uncurling and matting of hair. And then finally, the thinning of surfaces which are near capillaries. To the extent that the areas that are close to capillaries carry the blood carries heat, to the extent that those areas can be minimized in surface area, that then eliminates a fast way of losing heat. So lips, for instance, with the capillaries are close to the surface of the lips, to the extent that the lips can become a little thinner rather than larger, that becomes a way of decreasing the amount of heat that the body will lose. And also other physical features that will decrease body mass, taller, thinner persons rather than shorter, more squat persons. That helps to minimize heat loss. So all these factors that we see that what we call racial differences, really not racial differences, there's only one race on the planet, the human race. All these things help to keep people alive during the time they found themselves in North Central Europe and produce what we call today basically white people. Yes, brother.
Okay, in the case of melanin, so in this theory that the Caucasians came from race of albino, then that's not true.
I'm gonna deal with that. Okay. Well, to be quite honest, as we sit here today, we don't have any definitive way of knowing for sure exactly how some of these things happen. They happened before we were recording history. If you think about it, humans been on the planet about 4.5 million years, human types, hominid types, been on the planet about 4.5 million years.